Okay, hello everyone. Good evening. I hope everyone is doing good. I see very less number of people today. I have only one, two, three, four, five. Only five of you are there. Exams are going on. Now they started.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Midterm has already started. That's why the strength is less. Fine. So, like some of you said, I think you said that both chemical bonding as well as redox reactions both are there for your syllabus, right? For your midterm.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Hmm. So we didn't even complete chemical bonding. Chemical bonding, I require some more classes for me to complete, and then only I can start redox reactions. But redox reactions as a chapter is not that important, even for your. But I think for your term exams, I guess right, only very few questions will come from redox reactions, and it's a very small chapter. We'll be able to complete it. Only thing which you have to learn is about the oxidation numbers. How do you calculate? And the second thing you have to learn is about your balancing redox reactions with the help of oxidation numbers, right? Only these two things you have to learn, but that's not a big deal. Maybe some compounds, some reactions might be tricky, but overall it's an easy chapter only. But anyways, we will go maybe a little slow. We will try to little maybe quick up, pace up our way in which we take the class, right? Okay, so one more thing I wanted to ask now. How many we have? We have six of you only. Okay, so I wanted to propose that I thought I can take 2 hours of class, but with 15 minutes in between as a break. But now I see only six of you. Is it okay, people? Can we go for a 2 hours class? Is it fine?
Yes, sir.
I don't know. Others, are you guys fine? Only six of you are there.
Till 7, sir.
Yeah, now if I start, it'll be till 7:15 with 15 minutes in break. Like say now the class will go on to 6 to 6:15 break, and then 6:15 to 7:15 again. Okay, Shailaja says she has another class. Okay, fine then, right? So maybe we'll do only 1.5 hours now that the given the strength is also less, right? So we'll do only 1.5 hours. We'll finish the class by 6:30, right? Okay, let me share my screen. Okay. So we were filling this table, if you can remember, right? So we last class saw about what is the difference between shape and geometry, right? So basically, whether I have one thing what I have to understand is once I know the hybridization, I can fix the geometry, right? Now another thing I told you is that if there are no lone pairs, then geometry and shape are same, right? But if it is if the lone pairs are present but same steric number, right? Same steric number as 4 or 5, but one of the structures has a lone pair, the other one doesn't have a lone pair, definitely the shape is different, right? But both these structures will have the same geometry because they'll have same hybridization. I think this we saw last class, right? So I think we finished with sp3 hybridized molecules, and the type we were seeing was ab2l2, right? ab4 we saw already. ab4 tetrahedral geometry, tetrahedral shape, because there's no lone pair, right? And then we saw obviously how the bond angle will change. We took the example of H2O, H2S. I told you that the bond angle will be lesser than in the case of ab2l. ab2l sorry, yeah, ab3l, it should be ab3l, right? So ab3l, for example, if I compare nh3 and h2o's bond angle, right, nh3 will have a higher bond angle. Why? Because there is only one lone pair here, but oxygen possesses two lone pair. Here I have lone pair repulsions, right? So I think this is where we stopped last class. Any questions anybody has regarding this? Anybody has any questions? Right? Can we move on to steric number 5? Right? We already saw AB3L, right? AB3L, did we see? NS3 we already saw. I think it would have been here somewhere. Then. Where is the table? Okay, I'm not able to find it. We see AB3L. AB3L, what was the shape, people? For NH3, What was the geometry and shape?
Tetrahedral and trigonal bipyramidal.
Trigonal bipyramidal?
Only pyramidal.
Pyramidal. That's it. Or it's better to say it's only pyramidal. Do not use the word trigonal. Okay, it's only pyramidal, right? So this thing is tetrahedral. That is the shape. Mean geometry is tetrahedral, and the shape would have been just pyramidal. You can just say pyramidal shape. That's understood, right? And obviously for AB4L2, the geometry is still tetrahedral, but the shape becomes V-shaped, just like your H2 or say AB2L type of molecules also has V-shaped alpine state, right? AB2L, NO2 minus was the example, right? So we'll move on. We'll maybe make another fresh table for us to continue, right? Say steric number, type, okay, I'm sorry, guys. I think my current went off. There was no internet. So where was it? What was it talking?
You are drawing about the table, sir, and then you got disconnected.
Oh, I was talking to myself for almost 5 minutes then. Okay, I'm sorry, guys. Can you, who was the host? Can you just make me the host again, please? Someone should have been made host when I left, I guess. It is Tarush. Yeah, Tarush. Yeah, Tarush, can you make me the host again? Tarush, are you there? Can someone call Tarush, please? Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, I made it. Right. Okay, thank you, Tarush. Okay, so what I was telling is, where was the new table? Okay, right. So what I was telling is, I'm going for steric number 5. Obviously, I know steric number 5 will have sp3 dehybridization. The first type of molecule you're going to see is AB5, right? AB5 is 5 bonding atoms and no lone pair. Obviously, I'm going to get 5 as the steric number. Very simple, right? Now, if I look into the shape or geometry for this molecule, VSEPR predicts that this is how the geometry is going to look, or the shape is going to look for this particular molecule, right? Now, how do I understand this shape, right? Again, I'll draw it for you again, right? Say this is how, these are the bonds, all 5 bonding atoms like this. Okay, right. Now, how do you understand the shape? Is like this, right? Say, assume that this is the triangle. Hope you're able to see. Assume that this, whatever I have is a triangle. Okay, now this is one plane. This is in one plane, right? Okay, right. I draw it like this. This is some triangle. Okay, I don't know how to make a proper triangle. A triangle is there, right? The triangle, say it's in this plane, or say in this plane, doesn't matter. This is, say, assume that this is in this plane, right? Now, in the triangle, all the 3 bonding atoms will be there. First bonding atom here, second bonding atom in this side, third bonding atom in this side, so that they will form some structure like this. Hope you understand, right? So on the 3 faces of the triangle, in the 3 vertex of the triangle, I'm going to have your bonding atoms. And that is the 3 are done, right? Now I have to account for 2 more, right? So now this triangle, you understand, in this plane, and top and bottom here and here. Say, now assume that this is your triangle. Okay, assume that this is your triangle. On top of this is not a triangle. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 3 bonding atoms done. Now 1 at the top and 1 at the bottom. Okay, so triangle, 1 at the top, 2 at the bottom, second at the bottom. So that is how the shape is going to look, right? So what you understand is, this is in one plane. Okay, right, fine. Now what is the name of this geometry or shape? It is what is called as trigonal, because I understand that there is a triangle, right? Now there are 2 things, 1 at the top, 1 at the bottom, both making a pyramid. So it is going to be called as trigonal bipyramidal. Very simple, right? So trigonal because I'm going to have a triangle, bipyramid because I'm going to have 1 at the top, 1 at the bottom as a pyramid, right? So this particular geometry or shape is now I have something different here, right? Till now, what you saw, right? Till now, whatever you saw, right? Now, say for example, if I take H2O, right? Now I understand that there are going to be 2 OH bonds. Is it not? First OH bond, second OH bond, right? So if I consider the bond length, right? If I consider the bond length of this 2 OH bond, obviously they have same bond length. What do you mean by bond length? Basically, the nucleus of this, the distance between the nucleus of this and the nucleus of this, the bond distance. Same way, the distance between this nuclei and this nuclei, the distance between them is what is my bond length. Okay, right. Now, obviously here, both these are same, right? So obviously both the bond lengths are very similar, right? Now, one more thing I can tell you about bond lengths, people, right? Bond length is inversely proportional to bond strength. Now, I think you're a
Sir, we can't hear you.
same
Sir,
way.
you're not heard.
Sir, you're not
Not
heard.
heard? Is it
Yeah,
fine now?
now you are heard, sir.
Okay. So what I was trying to say. Oh, okay. So again, the current came back. I think the Wi-Fi is switching. That's fine. So what I was telling is, bond length and bond strength are inversely related. When I say a stronger bond, right? When I say one of the bond is very strong, that means the bond length, that is the distance between the atoms, is very small, right? And obviously, when I say a weak bond, weak bonds are longer. You can remember the statements like this: strong bonds are shorter, right? And weak bonds are longer. Okay, right. Now the next question comes, sir, how do I decide which bond is strong, which bond is weak? Right. Now we already discussed this point when we talked about overlapping, right? I told you bond strength, or they say the strength of the bond, is directly proportional to the extent, or say efficiency, of overlapping. Right? The bond strength is direct, more and more is the efficient, or say the extent of the overlap, right? More and more is the bond strength, because obviously understand bond is nothing but the interaction between the orbitals, right? So if the interaction is very strong, obviously understand that the strength of the bond is also very strong, and obviously a stronger bond will have shorter bond lengths. Right? Now, how do we understand this? It's very simple, people. For example, I say, no, okay, this is one of the things, right? The other thing is, when I have a single bond is weaker than a double bond, and that is weaker than a triple bond. I think this is very, 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 very easily understood, right? If I have, say, CC single bond, CC double bond, and a CC triple bond, obviously CC triple bond is the strongest because there are 3 bonds between them. Here I have only 2, here I have only 1, right? This is the strength bond, strength of order. Obviously the bond length would have been maximum for CC and minimum for C triple bond C. Bond length I'm talking about, right? Now this obviously is straightforward, right? Now talking about this point, what about the effect of overlapping, right? Now it's very simple, guys. Say I have 2s and 2p overlapping, something like this, overlap 2s and 2p, and or let me give you an example. We'll speak in terms of an example. Say let me take an HF bond, and say let me take a HCl bond. Okay, now I ask you, which bond is stronger? Right now you see here 1s and say 2p are the one which will be overlapping. 1s of hydrogen and 2p of fluorine will only overlap, right? And here in the case, if you see, this is 1s, obviously hydrogen, but here the orbital coming from chlorine is 3p. Those two are the orbitals overlapping, right? Now we already discussed this point, people. Like say, how will be the extent of overlap? The lesser the energy difference, right? Say 2 orbitals overlap to make a bond, right? Now these 2 orbitals involving in the overlapping, right? Involved in the overlap should be of, like say, I mean, it is preferred that these 2 are almost similar energies, or say the energy difference between them is not so much, right? Or why is it like this? It's all because of the size. Right, 1s orbital is very small. Say if at all it is 2p, it's fine, but 3p is very big, right? For me to have an effective overlap, right? So what I understand is efficiency or of overlap is directly proportional, or say, okay, it's inversely proportional to the energy difference between the atoms. Okay, atomic orbitals, I would say, between the atomic orbitals. Right, smaller and smaller is the energy difference, more effective and effective is the overlap, right? So now in this case I can understand that HF bond is stronger than HCl bond, because the energy difference between 1s and 2p is lesser when compared to the energy difference between 1s and 3p. Here the energy difference is very high, so the effective overlap is not so good, so the bond is weaker. And in this case, since it's 1s and 2p, there is only small energy difference, so the overlap is very efficient, and so the bond is stronger compared to an HCl bond. Obviously HCl bond would have been longer than HF bond. That is very simple to understand, right?
Sir?
Okay, is any questions anybody has?
Sir, so in this case here we can say that chlorine has the highest electronegativity when compared to Cl.
Okay.
So obviously HF will be more bonded, right, when compared to HCl.
Yeah.
Since
Like
the
if I
delta
bring into the ionic nature here, Obviously, if I consider them as covalent compounds, and these covalent, as I already told, covalent compounds also have ionic nature that we'll see later in the picture. So obviously, this has more ionic nature. Okay, this particular molecule has more ionic nature. So obviously, by that also I can tell that it is more bonded. I mean, more strongly bonded. Yes, I can tell that. Another way of also speaking is there. Hydrogen and fluorine, if I talk about the atomic sizes, right? If I talk about the atomic sizes, again, the size difference should also matter a lot. Smaller the size difference, say more efficient is the overlap. Right? Say hydrogen atom small, fluorine atom little big, but in HCl, hydrogen atom very small, but fluorine atom is very big. Again, the overlap is not going to be that efficient. Okay, so either you talk in terms of energy difference or you talk in terms of size difference, right? So lesser and lesser the size difference, or say lesser and lesser is the energy difference, more and more is the efficiency of the overlapping, and more is the strength of the, yeah.
Sir, what about 4s and 3D overlapping? Suppose like 4s is overlapping with some orbital, suppose constant orbital,
3D
and 3D is also orbiting with the same constant orbital.
Okay.
Then like the 4s is like farther, right? But then 3D come. I mean.
No, when I talk about the energies, 4s and 3D. First of all, 4s and 3D. Say. Please understand, I'm not talking about hybridization. I'm talking about overlap, right? So this 4s and 3D, if they combine together, right, they will combine together if they are from the same atom. For example, right, say for example, let me take manganese. For example, it will have 4s2 3d5, this kind of configuration, balanced electronic configuration. Right now, they both will together to form, say, some kind of hybridization, say sp3d, something they'll form. That is different. But say 3D of this and say 4s of say potassium, if it comes, if they ask me if they'll overlap, the answer is no. It cannot happen like this. Right? First of all, overlap can happen only if I have small, say, orbitals having lesser energy. So what happens when I have orbitals having very high energy? They will tend to form ionic bonds, right? You will understand when you go to p block and s block molecule, where you have s block elements chapter, right? At the time you'll understand when I go more higher and higher orbitals, I go 5s, 6s, 4s, generally 4s, starting from 4s, you will generally see mostly it will be ionic compounds. Covalent compounds are very difficult. Why? Because 4s or 5s or 3d or 3 or 4d and all these stuff, these orbitals are very much diffused, right? See, we perfectly say that the s orbital is spherical shape, but it's very difficult to visualize this, right? Because in this space I can have an electron anywhere in this space. That is what you understand. It's not like electron is there in exactly at this point. We cannot say this at this point electron is there. We cannot say. Right? But when I go to say 5s and all, you will see it is going more like a very much of a diffused kind of orbital. So the concept of overlap will not be holding good there. Right? So generally, when I go to very high energy orbitals, generally they will form ionic bond. They'll just simply transfer the electron rather than orbital overlap. That is very complex for them. So they'll just remove electron, add electron, something they will do, and somehow the compound exists. Right? Do you get the point what I'm saying? Yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay, right. But your question, 4s and 3D, say theoretically speaking, yes, they can overlap. Right? Why they can overlap? Because they're almost of similar energy. You know how to calculate energy. Energy is directly proportional to n plus L value. Right? So n plus L value is 4, and here the n plus L value is again 5. Not much difference is there. 3 plus 2 is 5.
Sir?
Yeah.
Sir, actually, I meant if 4 is, suppose there is 4 is 1 and there's 3p4. So
Okay.
in that case, if like 4 is 1 is reacting with 3p4 and 3d5 is reacting with 3p4.
Okay. Yeah, in
So
that
in
case,
that
definitely,
case, which will be stronger and which will be weaker?
in that case, I would say compared to 3p and 4s, both of them are having 4 and 4 as the energy, that is n plus L value, right? But I know 4s will have higher energy, right? So definitely, I think 4s and 3d will have a better overlap because this is 5 for 3d, the n plus l value, and this is 4. But for 3p is still having lesser energy than 4s, right? So the energy difference between these two are pretty large when compared to 4s and 3d. Do you get the point?
Sir, but
3D and
4s is far away than 3D, right?
but doesn't matter. It's all about the energy difference, right? Say even though 4s comes after 3d, but we fill the electrons in 4s first, then only we'll go to 3d, right? Do you get the point?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right.
Got it, sir.
It's all about the energy. That's all it matters. Okay. Now, why did I come
Okay,
here?
sir.
Right now, why did I come across all of this talking about bond length for a little amount of time is because I told you in this case, say H2O molecule or say NH3 molecule, you have 3 NH bonds, right? Say all of them are having same bond length. All the 3 NH bonds, same bond length. Here, all the OH bonds will have same bond lengths to OH bonds, right? But when I go to, for example, say I take a molecule like PCl5, right? Now, obviously, it belongs to AAB5 type of molecule, right? PCl5, right? Now, if you take this molecule and if I draw the geometry or shape, Cl, 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 right? Now, there are going to be two different bond length values. Okay, in this particular AB5 trigonal bipyramidal geometry, there are going to be two values of bond lengths. Right? So now let me mark. This is chlorine number 1, chlorine number 2, chlorine number 3, chlorine number 4, and chlorine number 5. Right? So remember, PCl1, PCl2, and PCl3. That is this bond, and this bond. All of them comes in one category. They will have one value, right? And PCl4 bond and PCl5 bond, that is chlorine atom number 5 bond, they belong to one category, right? So all these three will have one value and these two will have another value. Okay, now why is it happening like this is the first question, right? Now what you have to understand is, people, sp3d, right? Now I will be able to separate the, see, it's all mathematical. Okay, it is all mathematical, right? So now I'll be able to write this as sp2 plus pd, right? So like, even though I say that I'm going to have 5 numbers of sp3d, all of them are sp3d, 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 but like in reality, what I understand is 3 of them are sp2s and 2 of them are pds. 2 of them are PDs. So that is the reason why we see 3 of them having one bond length and the other 2 is having another bond length, because 3 of them are sp2 and the other 2 of them are actually going to be PD. Right? Now, obviously, I know if I'm going to have SPD, this is, I mean, sp2, obviously that is going to be a trigonal planar shape. I know, as for sp2 hybridization, the geometry is trigonal
Sir, you're on mute, I think.
Yeah, again it get disconnected in between.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Oh God, I'm so sorry, guys. What I was telling, anybody remembers?
Sir, for SP3D, it's trigonal bipyramidal.
So sp3d, it's trigonal bipyramidal. So did I tell you that there are going to be two different bond lengths?
Yes, sir.
PCl1, PCl2, PCl3 will have one kind, and PCl4 and PCl5 will have another kind. Did I tell you that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now then we went on to see why this is happening. Why do I have two different set of bond length values? Is because the hybridization itself can be of, like say, it can be
Sir,
overall.
actually, you aren't presenting the screen and you're not the host too.
Great. Yes. Yes, who's the host again? Tarush again. Sorry, Tarush. This is again happening. Can you please make me the host? Yes, Tarush. Can somebody text or call him? Tarush. Does anybody know his number? Tarush's number?
Sir, I'll try texting you.
Okay. Yeah.
Sir, I'll call him, sir. 1 second.
Yeah, that's better. Calling is better. Okay, done. Thank you. Okay, so what I was telling is this is PCl5 molecule, right? So I just marked Cl as 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? So now I told you that in this PCl5 or in any AB5 type of molecule, I am going to have two sets of bond lengths, right? One set will be for 1, 2, 3 chlorines, that is 1, 2, 3 chlorine atoms, that is PCl bonds, and another set will be for PCl4 and PCl5. Right. Now, why is there a different set? Why is there a different kind of thing? Is that the hybridization itself can be written like this. sp3d overall, I can write it as sp2 plus pd. Okay, sp2 plus pd, again it will give you basically sp3d. Do not ask me whether it's in reality it's happening. It is all purely mathematical. Okay, and for you to understand how the mathematics works, you really have to little go further in mathematics. Not even 12th class, little more further if you go, maybe then you'll be able to appreciate the mathematics behind this. Okay, so anyways, so now 3 of them, right, will be sp2s, right, and 2 of them will be pd, hybridization. Right, so whichever is an sp2, I know if I have sp2, I know they are going to form trigonal planar shape. We have already seen this. When I have sp2, right, they're going to form trigonal planar, and that is exactly what is happening here in this triangle. Right, in this triangle, you see that obviously these two are forming equatorial, these are forming the trigonal planar. Okay, now these 3 which are there in the same plane, right, now these 3 chlorine atoms are what are called as equatorial bonds, right, whichever is there in the trigonal planar, right, whichever is there in the trigonal planar, equatorial this thing, right, they are what are called as equatorial bonds. Okay, so in any AB5, right, in any AB5, there are 3 equatorial bonds, and obviously what are the other 2? The other 2, that is my Cl4 and Cl5, are going to be what are called as axial bonds. Okay, they are what are going to be called as axial because they are along the axis. This is along the axis. Okay, right? So now I have in AB5, I have 3 equatorial bonds and 2 axial bonds. Okay, right. Now, what we have to understand is, okay, we understood that there are going to be 2 different types of bonds. So 2 different types of bond lengths. Equatorial bonds will have 1 bond length, axial bonds will have another bond length. Next, what I have to understand is which is greater, or say which equatorial bonds are longer, or say the axial bonds are longer. That we have to understand now. Right now, you can say blindly, people can say blindly that equatorial bonds are shorter. Obviously, the other is true. The axial bonds are longer. Can somehow please explain or guess why is it like this? Equatorial bonds are shorter. I'm telling. Why?
Sir,
Any idea?
in equatorial bonds, it has both S and P character, whereas in axial bonds there is only D and P character. So
Yeah,
since there is no S character,
exactly.
the bond
Right.
length will be.
Yes. So what I understand is whenever there is S, right, there is better hybridization, or I can even call it as better overlap. But in this case, we are calling or talking about hybridization, but still we can even call it as better or hybridization or better overlap whenever I have S orbitals. Okay, now you see in equatorial bonds, I told you all of them are sp2 hybridized. Here I have S orbitals present in the hybridization. But when I go to axial bonds, right, I have only PD, right? There is no S here. So obviously these bonds are little weaker, right? And these equatorial bonds are little stronger, right? So since they are stronger, they are shorter. And since they are weaker, they are longer, right? So now you understood, right? There are going to be 2 different bond lengths because there are going to be 3 equatorial bonds and 2 axial bonds. And equatorial bonds are shorter because of more S character. If you ask someone, ask you how, it's because equatorial bonds has more S character. That is how you understand. That is how you answer these questions. Okay, right? Any questions anybody has? Right? Everybody understood what is trigonal bicameral geometry. What do you mean by equatorial bonds and what do you mean by axial bonds? How equatorial bonds are shorter and how the axial bonds are longer? Anybody has any questions? Okay, I suppose everybody understood everything. Right?
Sir,
Yeah, please tell me.
sir, between the 2 axial pyramids, the bond angle is 180 degree, right?
Yeah, correct. Between them, it's 180 degree. Okay, let me draw it again and explain. I was about to talk about that actually, right? So now, if I look into the bond angles, again,
So between the equatorial and axial bond, it will be 90 degree.
Absolutely, absolutely. Right. So now I have 2 different types of bond angles. One for the equatorial. Right. Now, equatorial bond angle is very simple. I already saw if I have BBB like this, I already know the bond angle here is 120, 120, and 120. This is very simple. Right. Now, when I go to axial bonds, right now, I would say it is 90 degree. Now, it's very simple to understand. Why is it like this? Now, when I draw, right now, please understand, I have to take bond angle. Bond angle will be taking as what? Bond angle, bonding atom, central atom, bonding atom. This angle only we take. Is it not? Bonding atom, central atom, bonding atom. Now, you see, you take anything, bonding atom, central atom, bonding atom. This one, say I know this is 120. Right? Now, but remember, both the bonding atoms you take, these 2 bonding atoms you take, they must be adjacent. They must be next to each other. You see, this and this are next to each other. You can take this and this also. I mean, this and this you can, yeah, this and this will be different bond angle, obviously. You can take this and this also, because now they're in the same plane. So as long as they're in the same plane, almost I consider them as they're next to each other. Right? So now here the bond angle is 120. Here the bond angle is 120. Again, here the bond angle is 120. Right? Now, that is very simple with respect to equatorial bonds because they are in the same plane. Right? But now, when you want to speak about the axial bond, again, you have to make sure that this holds good. Bonding atom, central atom, bonding atom, and the bonding atom should be next to each other. right? You cannot take this and this. You cannot take this and this. Then say that the bond angle is 180. Yes, the bond here, the angle is 180, but that is not the bond angle, right? If I say bond angle, you have to take this angle only, or say this angle only, or this angle only. You cannot take two. It's like this, right? Say, assume like this is the axial bond, one of the axial bond. Say now there are three lines here, here, and here, right? If I have to show you, I don't have proper these things with me. Assume that this is the axial bond. One bond is like this, other bond is like this, other bond is like this. That is how the trigonal planar is coming, and one bond at the bottom, right? Now you can take this axial bond and this equatorial bond. You will find that it is 90 degree. Again, this with this and this with the behind one. All of them will be 90 degrees, right? But if you check this and another bond here, which is down, the axial bond, that angle is obviously 180 degree, but that is not the bond angle. That is some other angle, 180, right? So what I hope everybody understood how the bond angle is 90 here. Okay, so equatorial bonds will be 120 degree, and axial bonds will have a bond angle of 90 degree. Okay, guys, right?
Sir?
Yeah, tell me.
Sir, if one of the axial bonds is a lone pair, then it would be lesser than 90 degree, right?
Coming to that. Next is that. Hold on to that. We'll answer your question. Okay, right. So now if you go fill the table, where is my table? Yes, here, right? So AB5, now I understood the geometry was trigonal, bipyramidal. The shape is same because there is no lone pair. The bond angle, I have two bond angles here. Equatorial is 120 and the axial is 90 degrees. And the example is PCl5. Okay, or if not, you want one more example. OSF4 is another example. Sulfur is the central atom, 5 bonding atoms, no lone pair. Another example for, what is that? AB5 type of molecule. Now the question is, if I have PCl5, no problem, right? If I have PCl5, all of these are going to be chlorine atoms. Now, what if I had some molecule, say theoretically, I produce some molecule which is having the formula PCl3F2, or say I produce this thing PCl2F3, something like that, some other molecule I'm producing, right? Now, what will be the shape or geometry of this particular molecule? In the sense, obviously, it is going to be trigonal pyramidal only, trigonal bipyramidal only, no doubt about it, right? But I have choices, right? Where do I put the chlorine atom? Whether I put them in the equatorial bond or whether I put them in the axial bond. Second question, where do I put the fluorine atoms? Again, in the axial bond or the equatorial bond. Again, these kind of questions will come to your mind, right? Now, for these things, there is a rule. It's called Bent rule. I mean, it's called Ben's rule. Bent is a scientist name. Okay, Ben's rule. Please take down, people. Please take down the rule. Right? In a trigonal bipyramidal geometry, point number 1, comma you put and write point number 1. More electronegative atoms, right? More electronegative atoms should be placed in axial position. The first point says the more electronegative atom, if at all you have two different atoms, right? The more electronegative ones should be there in the axial position, right? Second point. Lone pairs must be placed in equatorial position, right? Lone pairs must be placed in the equatorial position, right? And third and final point, pi bonds, that is double or triple bond. If you have triple bond, might not come. Double bond, if you have, that again has to go to axial position. Okay, right? So more electronegative atoms or pi bond, if you have, that should be placed in the axial position, right? And next, when you have lone pairs must be placed in the equatorial position, right? Now the homework to you is, give me the reasons for this. So tomorrow's class, right? Tomorrow's class, you are going to look, these rules are correct. Okay, these rules are okay, right? Why? Why is it like this? Why should I put a more electronegative atom in axial position? Why should I place the lone pair in the equatorial position? And why should I place the pi bond in the axial position? Why are these like this? Right? Now you have to come up with an answer. Say one thing I can help you. Right? Say for example, I'll do the easier one. I'll give you the tougher ones. Right? Okay. So if I take lone pairs, right? Now lone pairs are placed in the equatorial position. Can you tell me why? See, just think about it and tell me why. It
So
is
because a lone pair and bond pair, I mean, separation is a lot than.
Yeah, say now if I take if I place lone pair here in the equatorial position, you see, Alex, assume that there's another lone pair, assuming there's another lone pair, right? Now, if I put them into equatorial position, you understand that the bond angle here would be 120 degrees, so they're very far away from each other, right? But if I put one lone pair here, another lone pair here, the bond angle become 90. So obviously they're becoming closer here, right? And you can ask me, sir, why am I not putting it like this? Right? If I put the lone pair of electrons in axial position, please understand. Now I hope you understand what the shape looks. This is your equatorial position. And say if I have one lone pair here, one lone pair at the top, the other lone pair at the bottom, each of these two lone pairs will repel all these three bonds. So what I'm trying to say is, I say, for example, I have, if I should not be putting it like this, but if I put the lone pair in the axial positions like this, right? So now I have a triangle here, and then one lone pair at the top, one lone pair at the bottom, right? Now, what you understand is maybe I would have actually little reduced the lone pair repulsion. Yes, I'm not denying the fact, right? Lone pair repulsions, I have actually little reduced by putting them apart. But actually, I have increased the number of lone pair bond pair repulsions. Is it not? Now it's very simple to understand. If I have present this lone pair will have a repulsion with all these three bonding atoms. Same way, this lone pair will have a repulsion with all these three bonding atoms. Okay, so like this, there are reasons. Why am I putting lone pair in the equatorial position? Why am I putting?
Sir,
yeah, tell me.
Sir, even if the lone pair is in equatorial position, it will still repel three atoms, right?
No, the thing is, if it is in equatorial position, they're 120 degrees apart, right? Say, understand this. If the lone pair is here in this corner, assume that this is the triangle's one line, and say this the lone pair is here, and there is an axial bond here. The repulsion between them and this are going to be pretty less. But if I'm going to put the lone pair here, right, and the bond, maybe it will just be the repulsion will be there, but it is going to be between all the three bonding atoms, right? But if I put the lone pair here, right, it might have a repulsion between this and this, and say this and this. That's it. Only two lone pair bond pair repulsions. But if I'm going to put it at the axial position, I'm going to have three lone pair bond pair repulsions. Are you able to get the point? Yes.
Sir, but if the lone pair is in equatorial position, then won't it repel the axial atom also?
No, yeah, it would be, but it is very less. It's very less. Equatorial only will
Sir,
be.
But the bond angle is 90 degree, right? So how is it less?
Axial bond angle is 90 degrees. So. See,
and sir, the equatorial bond angle is 120. So axial will be like the repulsion between axial will be more, right?
No, that's what we generally don't place like this. See, look at this is one case, right? Now, if I put lone pair here and say there is a bonding atom here. Okay, right? Now, these two are not even involved in the repulsion now. Only these two are involved with the repulsion. Right? But if I put the lone pair here, this is involved. this is involved, another bonding atom, this is also involved. 3 lone pair repulsions. But here, only this and this will have a repulsion between the lone pair and the bond pair. Do you get the point? See, it is better you look up into a video. They will show some animations. Now maybe I'm not able to show you a 3D structure properly, right? You just put bent rule in YouTube, right? They will show amazing animations and see how is it like this. How like try to understand that and come back with a question.
Okay, sir.
Okay, right? But the rules what I mentioned here are very crystal clear. This is what you have to do, right? Now, going back to the question which I asked you, if I have say PCl3F2, this is how I must write. I should write, I told you, more electronegative atoms should go to the axial position. That means the 2 fluorine atoms should go to the axial position, right? All the other 3 equatorial positions should be chlorine, right? This is for PCl3F2. What will I have? PCl2F3. Now the rule doesn't change. The rule still says hold good. That is, the more electronegative atoms should go to the axial position, in the sense that 2 fluorine atoms have to go to axial position, and there is no other go than to place the other fluorine also in the axial position. But the geometry is this is the correct geometry, right? Just because you have 3 fluorine atoms, you should not put 3 fluorine atoms in the equal position. The rule still holds good. Okay. Right now, these kind of questions can come in a 1 marks also, right? Like, which is the correct geometry? They'll give 4 choices and ask you which is the correct geometry for PCl3F2, right? Okay, we'll take another example, OSF4, right? Now, if you take OSF4, right, now you see, obviously compared to oxygen, fluorine is more electronegative. That I know, right? But the difference in electronegativity is not so much. And one more thing what I have to understand is, between S and O, there is going to be a pi bond. In the sense that between S and O, there's going to be a double bond. And between S and F, there is going to be only single bonds. Okay. Now, what you have to understand is, people, when there is a clash between the first point and the third point, that is, you have more electronegative atom and there is a less electronegative atom, but it is having a pi bond, right? Now, remember, this has to be given more priority. That is, pi bond coming in the axial position should be given more priority. Okay, rather than a more electronegative atom coming in the axial position. More than that, a pi bond coming in the axial position should be given more priority. I hope you are able to understand, right? That means the shape here, the geometry here would be like this: S, double bond O, F. Oh, sorry, I'll draw it again. S, double bond O, F, 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 and F. This is the shape. You understand, right? The S double bond, which is the pi bond, is coming in the axial position. That is what is more important. Rather than the more electronegative atom, 2 fluorine atoms coming here and 1 going here. That is not the case, right? The double bond, the pi bond, should come in the axial position. Okay. Right? Fine. So we all understood how the geometry works, the bent rule. And now they see, when I go for lone pairs, obviously this is going to become very handy and you can easily predict the shapes. Now geometry is same. Geometry, whether I have lone pair or lone pair, doesn't have lone pair, it is going to be trigonal bipyramidal. But when I have the lone pair, right? Now, if you place the lone pair in the equatorial position, easily you will be able to understand what will be the shape. Okay, right? So now we have filled the table also. We have taken the examples also. So we are good. We are good here, right? Okay, so moving on to same steric number 5, but a different type of molecule. Okay, say steric number 5, but say, let me go for AB4L, right? AB4L. Now that means 4 bonding atoms and 1 lone pair. Right. So now we have to take an example for this, or let us first understand how the geometry and shapes are. Geometry is still same. I can fill this, right? Trigonal bipyramidal geometry, because once I know the steric number hybridization, I know the geometry. The shape is only going to be different, right? Now, if I draw the geometry of AB4L, this is how it should look. Okay, I've drawn the axial and equatorial bonds. In one of the equatorial bonds, I have to put the lone pair. and all the others are bonding atoms. Okay, all the others are bonding atoms. Okay, right? Now this is the geometry, right? If I write the shape, right, this is the geometry. Okay, in the equatorial position, I am placing the lone pairs. No problem. How many ever lone pairs? I have that many, only 3 possible then, right? Anyways, right, that I understood, that I'm placing in the equatorial position. Now, what should be the shape? Now, for shape, what you do is, this molecule is there, you rotate it like this. Okay, if you rotate it like this is what is the shape you will get. A, B, B, D. Or I'll draw it again once again. Let me draw a clear picture for you. Right, I have A, B, B, again B, and D. Right, so basically, if you rotate this by this side and if you put the lone pair, you will get the trigonal bipyramidal geometry. Right, I have just rotated counterclockwise. Okay, now can't you see this particular shape? Maybe my drawing is bad, but this particular shape is like seesaw, right? These are the places where the person sits, and this is my fulcrum. This is the support, and the seesaw can move up and down. Okay, it's very easy, right? So I hope you understand. I'll repeat again what I did. So basically, I had the trigonal bipyramidal geometry in that one of the axial position is here. Okay, now there are 2 ways of looking into this. Now say you put your eyes here and look at this side, and obviously you'll get it in this shape. Okay, or if at all you don't want to look at like this, rotate it like this, remove the lone pair, you'll be able to get this shape. So this is my TBD, trigonal bipyramidal geometry, and this is my seesaw shape. Okay, this is my seesaw shape. Okay, right? Very simple, right? So when I have AB4L, it is going to, the shape is going to be seesaw, and the geometry is going to be TBD, trigonal bipyramidal geometry. TBP, not TBD. Trigonal bipyramidal. Okay, right? So example, SF4 is a very good example because I know sulfur is having 6 valence electrons. 4 of them will go in bonding. So there are still 2 electrons left, 1 lone pair. So this is of the type S of this thing. So S, lone pair, and all the other 4. This is my geometry, right? And the shape is like this, seesaw. Okay, right? So any other example can you give me, guys? Can you think of any other example for AB4L type? Can you think of any example? Okay, well, let me give you another. Yeah, tell me.
Does NH4 work?
NH4 plus.
Oh, okay.
NH4 is, there's no molecule like this. NH4 plus. Now this will come under AB4, right? There's no lone pair on nitrogen here. The lone pair is not there. This comes under AB4.
Okay.
Right. Now another example I can give you is XeO2F2. Right. Now XeO2F2, xenon has 8 valence electrons. Now there are 2 oxygen atoms, that means 2 double bonds. So 4 electrons are gone. Right. Right. For one oxygen atom, 2 electrons will go. Right. And for 2 fluorine atoms, again, there are 2 more electrons will go. Totally, the remaining would be 2. So again, this is of the type AB4L.
Sir,
Yeah, tell me.
sir, what about CLF4? I think
CLF4. I think it will work. CLF4, you take a minus. Okay, fine. So if it is CLF4, no, CLF4.
no, sir, CLF3, sir.
CLF3 will not be at the shape. It becomes AB3, right? That will come under AB3L2 type. We'll see that. It doesn't come here. Okay. So now we can fill in the table now. Where is the table? Table. Yeah, here. So AB4L, we know the shape, the geometry is trigonal bipyramidal, and the shape is seesaw. Bond angle, we don't have to worry about it. Right? It is going to be some other bond angle. You don't have to worry about it. And examples we saw, examples are SF4, XCO2, F2. All these are very good examples.
Sir, XC4, XCF4.
XCF4 will come under what category? Tell me. You calculate and tell me. How many lone pairs I have on Xenonic in XCF4?
So
2 lone pairs, right? So it comes under AB4L2.
6
Yes,
steric number.
Steric number 6 it will become. Understood?
Sir,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
ZeOF4.
ZeOF4 I think will work. Yes, 4 electrons for this 2 electrons. Yes, this also is fine. XCOF4 will also come here. Yes. Okay, again, steric number 6. Steric number 5 and bonding atom, of the type A. If it is XCOF4, here itself I'm having AB5L. This is not AB4L. This cannot come here. There should only be 4 bonding atoms. Here I have 5 bonding atoms, right? In XCOF4, 1 plus 4, 5.
Yes, sir.
Right? So that doesn't come here. Right? Fine. So now, next one we can go again, steric number 5, but let me go this time to AB3L2. Okay, let me go to AB3L2. Okay, fine. Now I think the example Suprajeet told ClF3 minus. If I
No,
take
sir, only ClF3.
1 second, ClF3. Yeah, okay. ClF3, if I take, it will become 3 electrons gone. Yeah, 2 more. Yeah, correct. It will work. ClF3 is fine. Right, fine. So now ClF3, or first we'll look at the geometry and then come back to the example. So now the same AB5 only, but here I have 2 lone pairs. So now let me put the 2 lone pairs in 2 equilateral positions, here and here, right? And all the other 3 are going to be bonding atoms. Okay, right? Now forget that this is the lone pair is there. This is my geometry. Again, trigonal bipyramidal geometry only. But you forget that this is there, right? And you write it like this: A, B, B. Or the better way of writing it like this: A, or however you write, it's fine. Actually, it doesn't matter. A, B, B, B. Something like this. Okay. So now what I have to understand is this becomes, the lone pair is not there. Just forget the lone pair is there. This becomes T-shaped molecule. Okay. It's not looking like a T, right? Is it absolutely looking like a T? Is it not? Or say, even if you draw like this, A, B, B, and another B, again, you see there is a T. Okay. So however you draw it, you're going to get a T-shaped molecule. Okay. ClF3 is a very good example. Right? Now Cl has 7 valence electrons and 3 electrons are gone with fluorine. So total 4. So obviously 2 lone pairs. And there are already 3 bonding atoms. 3 bonding atoms plus 2 lone pairs.
Sir?
Number 5. Yes, tell me.
Sir, in this T shape, can you draw the lone pairs? 1 second.
T-shape, we don't draw the lone pair. Only in the geometry we draw the lone pair. This is the geometry, right? 2 equilateral positions, 2 lone pairs. So you just forget that this is not there. Forget that this is there, and what will you end up with? This is T-shaped. That's it. Right?
Okay,
T-shaped.
sir.
Right, again, it will be like this: bonding atom, bonding atom, bonding atom. T-shaped. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Right. Fine. So
Sir?
now, yeah. Any questions?
Sir, so dipole moment of any T-shaped molecule will never be equal to 0.
Anything with the lone pair itself will not have any, generally speaking, again, right? Anything with lone pair, right? Anything with lone pair will generally have 0 dipole moment. Okay?
Okay.
Right. We'll come back to that point. Don't worry. Right? Dipole moment is a separate thing. I told you when you want to discuss ionic nature in covalent compounds, that is where dipole moment comes into the picture. We'll see it there. Don't worry. Hold on to the dot. Right? Fine. So now I have AB3L2. Still the geometry is trigonal bipyramidal only, right? But the shape has become T-shaped. Again, don't worry about the bond angles, right? Examples you can know: ClF3. Any other examples I can think of? CLF3. Any other examples, guys? Mhm. No, I'm not able to get any example. Right. Fine. Anyways, now for now you can take one. Well, if I remember anything, I'll tell you. Okay. Battery is low. 1 second, guys. I'll disconnect my charger. Just give me a moment. Right. So CLF3 is a good example for now. Okay, fine. Now same last type in steric number 5 itself, that is AB2L3. Okay, AB2L3. Right. So now again we'll see what happens here. Right. So now if I draw the geometry, all the 3 equatorial positions are now occupied by lone pairs. Okay, now this is my geometry. Again, TBP geometry is what I have. Right. Now, if I look at the shape, again, just remove this, this, and this. Right. Now, all you have is this. What is the shape, people, here? What is the shape here? What is the shape?
Linear.
Yeah, that's it. Linear. Okay. Right. Now, I3 minus is a very good example. Okay. I3, 1 minus. Now, first thing what you do is draw the Lewis structure, Lewis dot structure. Go for it first. And then only you will understand. Somehow, right? So what do you mean by I3, 1 minus? There are 3 iodines, I, and one of them is I minus. That's what I understand. Okay. And negative charge has to go to which atom? Negative charge has to go to bonding atom or a central atom?
Bonding atom.
Bonding atoms, right? So what I understand is one of the I's will be central atom and one iodine atom will be a bonding atom. The other one bonding atom is going to be I minus. Okay. So yeah, try to get me the Lewis dot structure and prove me that this is of the type AB2L3.
Sir?
Yeah.
Sir, BRF3 is an example of T-shape, I guess.
Yes, BRF3, CLF3, all of them belong to the same. BR, CL all belong to the same family, right? Halogen family. So they'll have same kind of molecules. Yes. Okay. Now I3, I can even write CLF2 minus. That is also an example. Now basically instead of all I need is 3 halogens. Here also I have 3 halogens. Something like that. Right? CLF2 is also an example. I3 minus is an example. Right? Like this I can have. Anyways, try to draw the Lewis dot structure for I3 minus and tell me whether you are getting this or not. AB2L3.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. One. Can you just send me in WhatsApp? Anybody who completes, send me the structure in WhatsApp. I'll look into it. All are normal covalent bonds. Suprajit. I minus has okay. Okay. The central iodine, I don't know who was this. This is I think Raghav, right?
Yes,
Raghav,
sir.
what you sent?
The
How many
central, yes,
central
sir.
iodine has how many
So
electrons?
the central atom has, sir, every atom has 3 lone pairs.
Every atom has 3 lone pairs. Okay, that is correct.
Sir,
Yes, tell me.
sir, I don't have your number. Can you send your number?
Yeah, sure. It is 8939219916. Yes, anybody else has anything? This is fine. I can give 8.5 out of 10 for the structure, Raghav. There is, yeah, the details are, some details are missing. That's all I can say. Anybody else's diagrams?
Minus.
Minus sign, yeah, that is there. But I mean, you didn't include that. That is another mistake. But still, the structure came out to be correct. But still, there are details missing.
Sir, I calculated bond pairs and lone pairs and I did.
Okay. Yeah, the bonding and all is correct. There are 2 single bonds. One is I minus. The number of lone pairs. Everything is correct. One major detail is what is missing. Or when I draw the structure, then you'll understand what is that. What is that one thing you're missing? Okay, another example came. Okay, 1 electron, 1 electron, 1 electron, 1 electron. Now one of them should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Subrajit, the mistake you have done is you have taken the central atom to be I minus. Is it right? Subrajit, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Subrajit, you have taken central atom, that is 3 I minuses. You took the central atom as the one who is having I minus, which is not correct. No.
Sir, it's actually correct,
Okay,
right?
sir. Yes, sir.
It is actually correct. No, it is not correct. Let me solve all the confusions. Right. So now, first iodine atom having 7 valence electrons, say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right. Now there is 1 I minus, which is going to have 8 valence electrons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right. And another iodine atom having 7 electrons. Okay. Right. Now this iodine requires 1 more electron to satisfy its octet. So now this 1 electron is given. This is again taking 1 electron it gives, 1 electron it takes. Done. Both the iodine has 8 electrons and 8 electrons in their valence shell. Right. Now what about this iodine? Right. Now this iodine is not going to form a normal covalent bond. This lone pair which is present is going to be a coordinate bond to the central iodine. That is how you must draw. Okay. So now if I draw the proper structure, between I and I is a normal covalent bond, but between I minus and I, it is going to be a coordinate covalent bond. This is the correct way of writing it. Whatever I wrote here, that is the correct Lewis-Strauss structure. Okay.
Sir.
Yeah.
Sir, but the central atom doesn't need 2 electrons, right?
There are a lot of cases you saw that even though the 8 electrons are filled, lot of times that there are more than 8 electrons, right? SO4 minus, PCl5 will have 10 electrons, SF6 will have 12 electrons. That doesn't matter. Right? Now, all you have to understand is central atom having more than 8 electrons is okay for me. Right? But bonding atoms, side atoms having more than 8 electrons is not allowed. Do you get the point? Right? You in no structure you would have seen, that the side atoms or bonding atoms are having more than 8 electrons. But you must have seen a lot of examples where the central atom is having more than 8 electrons. Do you get the point? Yes. Okay, I hope you get it. I hope you understand. Right? So this
Sir?
is,
Sir?
yeah, tell me.
Sir, then the central atom will have 4 lone pairs, right?
Central, no. See, it has 3 lone pairs. 1, 2, 3. This is not a lone pair, right? This is a bond. This is a covalent bond. This is a coordinate bond. This is not a lone pair.
Yes, sir, got it.
Okay, 3 lone pairs. 3 lone pairs, 3 lone pairs, 3 lone pairs, everything. So you understood, I think, Raghav. All the things are correct.
Sir.
If you have just put one arrow mark here, I would have given you 10 out of 10.
Sir, but actually here you have taken minus to be on the like this iodine atom,
Okay.
but it is actually the same, right? For example, the coordinate bond that the head of that arrow would be negative and the tail would be positive. Then the middle central atom would become negative, and again the side atom would become positive.
No. It's not like these electrons are there. Whether this electron is not entirely coming out of iodine, like these 2 electrons are not entirely coming out of iodine, they're going to be somewhere in between, just like how a normal covalent bond is there. Do I give just because this is losing electron, this is losing electron, or say I do not give any charges here, because the electrons are there somewhere nearby in between, so that they're equally not charged. Same only happens here. Just that only difference is, instead of 1 electron coming from 1 atom, 2 electrons are coming from 1 single atom. That is the only difference. Charge, where the electron resides, where the electron, all those things are not changing. Yes? Okay. Is that the
Yes, sir.
question?
Sir, yes, no, sir. Actually, never mind, sir. I will tell you later.
Okay, fine, sure. We'll talk later. No problem. Right. So fine. I hope everybody understood. This is the Lewis structure, and the shape of our I3 minus or ClF2 minus. ClF2 minus is very similar to I3 minus. Here all 3 are iodines. Here I have 1 chlorine and 2 fluorines. That's the only difference. Same linear shape. Same kind of Lewis structure only will come if you try to draw. Chlorine will be at the center. Right. So now, guys, let us fill this. Wait, what happened here? Okay. Right. So now AB to L3, the geometry is still trigonal bipyramidal, but the shape has become linear. Bond angle will not say, we cannot say it is 180 degree, guys. Do not tell it is 180 degree. Okay. Do not talk about the bond angle when you have lone pair. All you can do is just compare. Okay. We'll have a separate session for that. Okay. Separate session talking only about your lone pairs. If I have how the bond angle will be changing, that we can see, but we cannot talk about the exact value. Okay, fine. So now for these examples are I3 minus, ClF2 minus. All these are very good examples for steric number 5, AB2L3. Yes, tell me.
Sir, I have a doubt. At the starting, while we drew this diagram, you told that it was purely covalent bond, right?
Purely covalent bond. Yeah, okay.
How, sir? It is coordinate, right?
Oh, coordinate bond comes under covalent bond. The covalent bond has 3 categories. One is sigma, pi, other one is covalent. That is also coordinate bond is also a covalent bond only, a special type of covalent bond. That's it.
So now in this I3 minus, there is no sigma or pi bond.
There is one sigma is there. But generally coordinate bonds, we call them as sigma. Right. So what you have to understand is, Kanna, if you look at the overlap, right, this is how the overlap will happen. But if it is going to be a normal covalent bond, 1 electron here, another electron here, this is how the overlap happens. So generally, coordinate bonds are sigma bonds, generally speaking, because they will, the orbitals are overlapping head-on overlap, even though the electron is coming differently, right? The overlap is still head-on overlap only for a coordinate bond. Is it okay? There are two
sigma bonds, right?
Yeah, two sigma.
Okay.
2 sigma bonds will be there in this. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so that is about AB2L3, right? And that's about steric number 5 also. Okay, guys. So moving on to steric number 6. Okay, so that's about steric number 5. See how many categories you have: AB5, AB4L, AB3L2, AB2L3, and all of them will have same geometry, but different shapes. Okay, right, fine. So moving on to static number 6. Obviously, I know the hybridization is now going to be sp3d2. Okay, right. The first example or the first type we'll take is without any lone pairs, AB6 type of molecules. Right now, the shape is very simple to understand. Okay, the shape and geometry in this case are going to be same. This is how it looks. B, 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 B. This is how the shape looks. Okay.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, do f orbitals hybridize?
Do f orbitals hybridize? No, they don't. If f
Why,
orbitals
sir?
involved, generally there'll be ionic bonds. I think
Any
till
reason
now,
behind it?
recently, I don't know, maybe I can check, but till whatever I know, right, whatever I have studied, maybe newly some research is still going on, I don't know, but till now, for as far as I know, there is no f orbitals involving in hybridization. No.
Okay, sir.
Okay, the compounds formed by basically these the last in the end of the periodic table, you'll find 2 columns like this, right? Say lanthanum or hafnium, and all these things will be there. The number of compounds formed itself are very less number of compounds. Okay, so only if I have enough number of compounds, then I can study the process, study the properties of the atoms very clearly, right? If I have very limited availability, then obviously the research also will be a little slow. Okay, right. So anyways, the shape is like this for AB6 type of molecules, right? It is basically, what I understand is I have a square, right? And on top of the square and in bottom of the square, I have 2 pyramids. It's exactly similar to the previous time, trigonal bipyramidal, but instead of a triangle here, I'm going to have a square. Okay, this is a square, one at the top, one at the bottom. Okay, so now I can give 2 names to this. Okay, one obviously is what is called as square bipyramidal, right? But the correct name is the square pyramidal. Say the common name what we give to is what is called as your octahedral shape or geometry. Okay, square bipyramidal, or it's better to use its octahedral. Okay, now what you have to understand is all these bond angles are 90. Whatever bond angle, the adjacent bond angle, whatever you take, all the bond angles here are 90 degrees, and there is no question of equivalent axial bonds. All are same, right? There are all the 6 AB bonds, same bond length. Same bond length, same bond angle also. 90-degree bond angle, and all of them will have same bond length. Okay, right. Now the example can be is SF6. Okay, SF6 is a very good example. Okay, right. Another example I can give is PCl6 minus. This is a salt, the anion part of the salt, right? PCl6 minus. Okay, now can you tell me if I draw the Lewis dot structure, you will find that there is one coordinate bond here. Okay, there's one coordinate bond coming from Cl minus having 8 electron to the empty orbital of phosphorus. PCl6 minus again will be like this. Anyways, right? So all of them will be basically octahedral geometry or octahedral shape. In this case, because they don't have any lone pairs. Right? Now very simple. Right now we can fill them. AB6 will have octahedral geometry, octahedral shape. The bond angle is 90 degrees, all of them. And the examples are going to be PCl6 minus and SF6. All these are examples. Okay, right. What is the time? Okay, I can take one more molecule maybe. Right.
Sir?
Now, in this case, people, I want to ask you this. SF6, okay, SF6 will be like this. Right. Now, what if I had SF4Cl2, or say I have SCl4F2. Now these kind of things, if you have, what will you do? Okay, Now, what you have to understand is here the dissimilar atoms, right? The dissimilar atoms should be placed in the opposite corners of the octahedron. Right? The dissimilar atoms should be placed in the opposite corners of the octahedron. So what I'm trying to say is that for SF4Cl2, S, let me draw the bonds. Okay. Now, the possibilities is that I have the dissimilar atom. Dissimilar atom is whichever is 2, right? The dissimilar atom is Cl. Okay. So Cl, I can put Cl in the opposite corners of the octahedron. Right, this is one corner, another corner, or the other possibility can be, I'm sorry, the other possibility can be, say I'll put the F's here. Say if I put chlorine here, the next chlorine should come here. Hope you understand. This is one corner, opposite corner. Right, so this is correct. This is also correct. Same way only I have to do for SeL4F2. Say it will be like this. Right, F, Cl, 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 whichever is the dissimilar atom, right? That should be placed in the opposite sides of the octahedron.
Sir,
Okay, this also, yeah, tell me.
sir, but according to Ben's rule, Cl is more electronegative, right? So it should be in the axial position.
That's what I told you. Here in octahedral, there is no case where I can have oxygen equatorial. All are same bonds. All are same. They get it? Only in TBP geometry I have that of axial and equatorial. In octahedral or none of the other shapes, you don't have the concept of called as axial and equatorial. All bond lengths are same. Okay, in octahedral. Yes. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Right. Fine. So that this also we understood. Okay, about the geometries, how it will be different. Fine, guys. I think we'll stop with this for today. Okay, so I have a few more things to talk about in 6 itself. AB5L, AB4L, AB4L2, AB3L3, AB3L3 do I have? No, AB3L3 I don't have. Anyways, so you have 2 more cases here, right? And after that, we have to go for ionic bonding in covalent, ionic nature in covalent bonds, right? How ionic nature comes into the picture. And next thing I want to do is about this bond angles. How will they change? Okay, bond angles, if I give you molecules, right? I'll give you molecules and you have to arrange them in the order of bond angles. If I give you, you must be able to do it. Okay, that is one. And the last thing is your molecular orbital theory. Okay, so next class, we will be completing your VSCPR VB, and we'll go for your bond angle and your ionic nature and covalent compounds will complete. Next class after that, and maybe I might even start molecular orbital theory also. Okay, so next to next class, we can have a molecular orbital class. When is the chemistry exam, people?
Monday, sir.
Coming Monday?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Oh my God.
Day
I
after
want,
tomorrow.
I want to complete at least chemical bonding. Okay, fine. Maybe what I'll do is maybe tomorrow's class, let me go a little fast. Okay, I will try to complete your molecular orbital theory as well, just enough so that you can write your exams properly. Okay, obviously after that I'll explain you again in the next class. So next class I will try to complete your chemical bonding chapter. Okay, I'll go a little fast just for your own sake, so that you'll be able to write the exams better. I'll help you write the exams better. Okay, but if not, I'm really sorry. Okay, you must have told me at least 2-3 weeks back that these exams are coming. I would have done accordingly. Okay, anyways, so we'll see, guys. Okay, thank you so much. Right.
Sir, I have a doubt, sir.
Yes, Kanna, tell me.
Sir, for example, if SF6 has an hybridization of sp3d2, then all the elements in the group of sulfur will also have the same hybridization.
Yes, definitely. Say if I can go for sulfur, what groups are selenium, SCF6 exist.
Yes. How do
Okay.
we find whether it exists or not?
Oh, that exists or not, you have to look at the literature. You have to check in Google that a compound exists or not.
For example, if in the same group, I take the 5th element and I tell XF6.
That you cannot tell. Theoretically, we can expect. theoretically we can expect that, okay, last element, third element SF6 is existing, so the fifth element also will have SCF6. You can theoretically predict, but you might find that it is not going to be the case. Now, why is because when I go down the group, as I told, the energy of the valence shell increases. Okay, so when the energy of the valence shell increases, forming a covalent compound is very difficult. So what I understand is, say selenium now has to form +6 oxidation state. Okay, selenium will be forming +6 here also. Obviously, in this case, sulfur will be forming +6 oxidation state. Sulfur forming +6 oxidation state is okay for me because it is little above, starting of the group, right? So when I go down the group, this ability of forming higher oxidation state decreases. Okay, say maybe they will form SCF2, right? And they will be +2 oxidation because it is going to be an ionic compound. See, ionic compound, I cannot consider the fact that it can have a cation can have +6 oxidation state, right? But ionic compound having +2 oxidation state is reasonable for me, right? So now the stability of this compound is very low, so that this compound doesn't exist. But what exists another form of this, that is SCF2, and this is not even a covalent compound. It is going to become a ionic compound. That's what happens. Okay, see how whether the compound exists or not, theoretically, obviously you can talk about it, right? But practically whether it exists or not depends on so many parameters. Okay, right?
Okay,
So
sir.
it is
Yes,
better to look into the literature, look into the books, or ask Google, or say take a book and study, right, for S block elements, P block elements. Then you'll understand. Then like it is say logic is 70-80%. Right, rest 20% again is fluke for whether a compound is existing or not. Okay.
Okay,
Right.
sir.
Right. Any other questions anybody has?
Sir,
Yes, Kana, tell me.
sir, if I have any doubt regarding the concepts, can I contact you?
Why not? Why not? Anybody for that matter. You have your exams on Monday. You can always contact me on WhatsApp. Okay, and I will try to reply you as soon as possible.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Right. Any other questions anybody has? Okay. Oh, it's so dark. I'm so sorry. Right. Fine, guys. Thank you so much. We'll meet again. Right.
Thank you, sir.
sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, sir.